So in this video tutorial, I want to talk a bit about why is rebranding important. So now let's start with, we all know that rebranding is a necessity. It's needed in some places, for example, East London, Cornwall and Manchester. But why is this? Well, we know, let's quickly recap why is this, because in my earlier post you would have seen why it's important. Firstly, in the 1980s, there was a great economic structural change. The primary and the secondary sectors died down because of cheaper imports from abroad, and the government also encouraged more tertiary sector work. But people who had been in manufacturing work in primary industry found it hard to change and use. They didn't have the skills or the training required for the tertiary sector work, the service sector. So this had left with a lot of unemployment. Now, unemployment has loads of problems as well. But another problem is we started getting our globalized world. You know, people started to migrate, and especially the unemployed, they started to move to richer areas. Now, there's a term we use, it's called Backwash Effects. Now this, it means that it is when rich areas drain everything out of poor areas, so like labor, industry, everything, leaving poor areas to get even more poorer. That's why rebranding is important, to stop this cycle. So you know, without some of the reasons. And then also we have the multiplier effect. People are unemployed, they can't buy things in businesses. So the people who actually have jobs in the businesses close down because nobody's buying things there. And you know, so on, the multiplier effect goes on. So that's why it was needed. But why was it so important? Well, firstly, it is a tried and tested method. You know, from ancient times, when you have something and it's become, you know, it's like if I have my glasses case, right? This, after a while, it gets broken, cracked. And if this was a land, you can't throw it in the bin because it's, you know, potential economic growth could come out of it. You know, this could potentially still be my, so why am I just, I might dress it up a little bit, I might glue it up here, I might do X, Y, Z to it. And so I can still use it. Because if I don't and I throw it, that's a waste of land. Well, this is a glass case, but it's a waste of land, which is a finite resource. Hence, we can't throw it away and get another one. That's why it's so important. And also involves people. You know, that is a fundamental point. People who live in these derelict areas, you know, they're not going to be close to any services. You know, there's hardly any people living there. If people are more poor in these areas, crime is likely. Quality of life is poor. And so what the government, okay, forget the politics and everything that goes on, but what they were designed to do was to ensure that people have a good quality of life, everybody is cared for, you know, that kind of thing. And so by regenerating, by providing new services and everything, many people can actually be exposed to this new quality of life. One problem is there. This is more of my opinion, is that people are always reluctant to change. And I got this from a book I read called Who Moved My Cheese. People are very reluctant to change. So even if in the long term it's good, in the short term, because of the cost, because of this disruption and everything, people are not happy. Because of a fundamental problem, people don't like change. Even if it's in a bad state, people don't want to change because they say, oh, but it was so good before, can we not just go back? They don't see the potentiality, and even if they do, just they don't like change. That's the end of it. It takes a risk to take an entrepreneur to see the change and do it. And how rebranding works, well, the fundamental point how it works is it attracts investment. It attracts people to come, put their money into the town and build this up again. It attracts businesses, which would create jobs. So basically, if we look at it, why did it become derelict in the first place? Because people are unemployed. So now, if by regenerating, you're attracting businesses, you're creating jobs, you're going against that cycle. So it also makes logical sense to rebrand a place. That is why it's so important. Now, it's the problem with East London we're facing today is that firstly, how much is it costing the Olympics and all? It's costing a lot of money. But also, just like if you do RS, you know, utilitarianism, consequences are hard to predict. We don't know exactly the benefits of doing this Olympics regeneration. We don't know it. So that leaves a bit of wishy-washy feeling. And also in the 1980s, for example, when St. Catherine's Dock was regenerated, it wasn't regenerated for the local people in mind. It was so based on market that this might have something to do with the Margaret Thatcher government, but it was people who had tourists and rich, wealthy people in mind. That's why St. Catherine's Dock, very posh place, posh hairdressers I remember seeing there, and so people in East London are saying, okay, you're going to move us, you're going to deport us to another place which is probably derelict, build this up for the rich people. Again, we're not benefiting. So when rebranding is important because of all the reasons I said, but it's also what's more important that it's done in the correct manner, it's done with the right people in mind. It's easy to get carried away thinking, oh, rich people here can get more tax revenue, the local authority will be thinking like that. It's easy to get carried away and just say, oh, this is this. But we need to just remember that the local people have to be on the mind, because that is their homeland. In a sense, they have rights to that place, and how much you develop it should be done with them in mind. I hope this video helps a little bit, because I've got all written notes of this on my blog, but I just wanted to do a video for me talking through why actually I believe rebranding is so important. Thank you for watching. Please visit my blog, rate, subscribe and comment.